With me now, Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz, who is praising this move. But you have to wonder about the timing of it. Why now, Senator?
Well, the latest reason that I think prompted the Speaker to form this committee is we found out last week there were yet more emails the White House had refused to turn over. And in these emails, you see senior White House officials directing the false story that this attack was because of a silly internet video. And these videos, these emails are nakedly political. It is abundantly clear that the driving motivation is protecting the political interest of the president rather than telling the truth about what happened or getting to the bottom of it. And the White House held on to these emails for a long time, and I think that was the last straw for the Speaker, where the White House is intransigence. He decided it was time to get to the bottom of it.
All right, but you know, the other side blames Republicans for being nakedly political and trying to seize this initiative and take a moment and a crisis that might not be there. You say what?
Well, look, I think it is unfortunate to see the Democrat Party circling the wagons around President Obama and Hillary Clinton and treating the death by terrorist attack of 4 Americans as nothing but a political inconvenience. It's been 19 months, almost 20 months. We have 4 dead Americans. We have the first dead U.S. ambassador killed in service since 1979. And in the 19 months that have followed, we don't have a single dead terrorist. We don't have a single terrorist apprehended. And what we've seen from the president, from Senate Democrats, has been stonewalling, where there are basic questions that should have been answered over a year ago. Number one, why did the State Department repeatedly refuse to provide additional security as was requested by our personnel on the ground? Number two, why did we not have military assets in place to protect our men and women on the anniversary of September 11th when there was increased terrorist activity in the region? And number three, during the attack, why didn't we send in forces to protect those men? And number four, critically, in the 19 months that have followed, why has no one been apprehended, no one been brought to justice? You know, Neil, you and I both remember during the presidential debate on foreign policy where President Obama looked in the television camera and said, "No one is more upset about what happened in Benghazi than I am." He got quite offended. You know, it's striking that 19 months later, it seems the president never utters the word Benghazi. I mean, giving him the benefit of the doubt, if he were speaking the truth, if he cared about it, you would think that wouldn't be the last time he would mention it. We need to get to the truth, and that should be a bipartisan objective.
All right, well, it doesn't appear that it will be bipartisan. It will probably be just Republicans leading the charge for now. Does that weaken whatever findings this commission will have?
Well, look, if the Democrats choose to politicize it, that is their choice. In my view, this shouldn't just be a select committee. This should be a joint select committee. It should be both houses. Because
but if they
when
opt
our
out, Senator, if they opt out for whatever reason, because they'll claim you're being just as political, then do we go nowhere fast? I mean, I think it was you said when we were first discussing this shortly after Benghazi, I think you said, Neil, I don't know what the president knew at the time of Benghazi. I do know that the very next day he was on a plane for a fundraiser in Las Vegas, and that you found offensive. Is that about as much as we can glean all these months after the fact?
Well, look, we still don't know what the president did during the attack. We don't know if he was even awake or asleep. You know, Hillary Clinton famously ran those ads about him being there, who's going to answer the 3 a.m. call. As far as we know, as far as been made public, both Secretary Clinton and the president were sound asleep during the 3 a.m. call.
But they came up with talking points.
Happening.
I'm sorry, Senator. They came up with talking points. Now, they would not be the first administration to come up with talking points to discuss a crisis. Your point, and what you bring to these emails that came to light, is that these were deliberately deceiving talking points, and they knew that. Is that the gist of what's going on here, and is that the reason why you think Speaker Boehner is pursuing this to the degree he is?
I think the deliberately deceiving and partisan talking points that they withheld for almost 2 years was what finally prompted forming this select committee. But I've been calling for a joint select committee for over a year now. In fact, I've introduced a resolution in the Senate that has 24 Senate co-sponsors calling for a joint select committee. And I understand the Democrats like to pretend it's tit for tat. Well, we're partisan, they're partisan, everyone's partisan. you know what, Neil? The truth shouldn't be partisan. Finding out what happened, finding out how we could have prevented it, and acting to actually apprehend these guys, that should not be partisan. Politics should end at the water's edge. And it is highly dismaying to see Democrats just circling the wagon saying, we don't want to know the truth because it might be politically inconvenient. That's not the responsibility of any elected official.
What do you think of an official at the time telling our own Brett Baer, it was 2 years ago, dude?
Well, look, I mean, that reflects the cavalier attitude of this administration. It's all politics. It is purely a matter of political spin. And it's the pattern they play on every scandal, where when it breaks, whatever the scandal, they say, we're very concerned, then they stonewall, and then after some months pass, they say, oh, that's ancient history. And it's a pattern they follow. They follow on Benghazi, they follow on the IRS, they follow on Fast and Furious. Every time there is a scandal, it's like they have a playbook where they claim to be outraged, then they stonewall, then they say it's ancient history, no reason to
well, then let
inquire
me
what
ask
happened.
you this, sir. I mean, you are always mentioned in the top tier of potential Republican presidential candidates. You're always number 1, 2, or 3, depending on the sampling. So let's say this were to drag on until 2016 and beyond, and you get elected president of the United States. Would you urge a continuing of this investigation if you still have no answers? Would a President Cruz still be pursuing this?
Well, look, I certainly hope that the Select Committee is able to get answers. I hope we're able to bring those terrorists to justice, as President Obama claimed on a national debate that he had a top priority of doing. But if we get to 2017 and the administrations continue to stonewall, Democrats have continued to stonewall, then absolutely the next president should pursue the truth. You know, one of the things, Neil, we know is the Deputy Chief of Mission, a career Foreign Service officer, was told by Hillary Clinton's chief political aide, keep your mouth shut, don't talk to Congress, don't talk to the press. You know, the degree of political manipulation, rather than finding out why terrorists attacked us, how we were vulnerable, how we can prevent it,
what if
and
they
how
were
we
just
can go
stupid?
and bring
What
them
if
to
they
justice.
were just dumb and clueless?
Well, look, and you know, I had an old boss of mine who used to say, never attribute to malice what can be explained with incompetence. And so, look, were mistakes made here? I'm sure they were. But that's what makes the value of a fair and impartial inquiry so important, because you learn from the mistakes not to do it again.
Senator Cruz, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Neil.